There's not many articles and news stories that make me think deeply, and then make me think again, and then make me change my mind again, and then analyse it again, then think again. But this is one of those stories. First of all, this guy's an arse, an absolute arse, for many reasons. But he's in the news because he debated live Charlie Kirk a few months ago at Oxford Union. Oxford Union is one of the oldest, most prestigious debating chambers in the world. I spoke there once, but mine was over the internet because of COVID, so mine was via Zoom. I didn't get the full pleasure of standing in that chamber where many, many great people have stood and debated. And he's just, well, let's not get to that. He debated Charlie Kirk a few months ago over the dispatch box, whatever the box is called. He was face to face with him. Then Charlie Kirk was shot and murdered, political assassinated. This guy, this George, the guy with a shit surname, yeah, freedom of speech, he's got a shit surname. He then puts a tweet out basically laughing at it, celebrating it. He debated him, he met him, he was face to face to him, and then he celebrated his political assassination. That's bad enough. But on top of that, this idiot is going to be the next president of the Oxford Union. He's going to be the president of this debating chamber, of this debating organisation. It's like, wow. Many people are screaming for him to be not only sacked from being president, but also kicked out of Oxford University. And first of all, you say to yourself, good, yes, he deserves it. And that's most people's initial response to this. But then you've got to think deeper. You've got to think to yourself, should he be cancelled? Doesn't he have freedom of speech? And he does have freedom of speech. Now, is there limits on freedom of speech? Well, there is limits. In this country, we're not allowed to call for violence. People went to jail for calling for violence, or perceived calling for violence. He's not called for violence. He's laughed at and celebrated the murder of somebody. But haven't I done that? Didn't I find it funny when Mossad planted bombs in all those pages and Hamas terrorists all answered a page and got blown up? Did I laugh at that? Yes, I did. Charlie Kirk isn't a British citizen, so we can't say, well, this was an English guy got murdered and he's laughing at him in our country. Well, no. Charlie Kirk was American and got killed, murdered on American soil. This gets more and more complicated the more and more you think about it. So some people are saying it was outrageous what he said. Well, it was outrageous. But who deems what outrage is? There's things I say that people claim that I'm outrageous. Should I be silenced? Now, it looks like no one's going to take any punitive action against George. I've got a shit surname. So Oxford Union have said, that's fine, they're happy with it. Oxford University said they're fine, they're happy with it. Freedom of speech. It's interesting that they use the answer freedom of speech for them, for left-wing people, for people who they agree with what they've said. If he'd have been a right-wing or said something right-wing, if he'd have laughed at George Floyd, if he'd have said something about, laughing at a dead trans person, I'm sure he'd be ousted then. I'm sure he would. But hey, that's a different thing altogether. Let's talk about this case. So they've said it's a freedom of speech matter, and they're perfectly correct. They're perfectly correct. This is freedom of speech. Freedom of speech means having the right to say things you don't like, that you find offensive. That's freedom of speech. No point having freedom of speech for your friends who say exactly what you like. Oh, I like him. He agrees with everything I say. I like his freedom of speech. That isn't freedom of speech. Freedom of speech is willing to listen to things you don't like. And this is a great example. He had the freedom of speech to mock and to celebrate the death of someone. Regardless of how offensive, uncouth, disgusting that is, he has the right for that. So that's the freedom of speech bit over. But there's more to it than that, isn't there? Now, the point I'm trying to get my head around here is this. He is the next president of a debating organisation. Should someone who celebrates the assassination of someone for using words, should that person be the president of a debating club? How can you represent a debating club when you've already announced to the world that you're quite happy for your opponents to be assassinated? That's the issue for me now that I'm still thinking about, and maybe by the end of this segment, maybe I would have figured it out. Let me give you a different example. Let's say we've got somebody who is going to be president of a children's charity. Okay, just been elected, they're going to be president of a children's charity. And then they announce, I actually think the law should be changed and we should allow paedophilia. That's what I think. I don't think paedophiles should offend now because it's against the law. So I'm not asking them to break the law. I'm just saying I think we treat paedophiles far too harshly, and I think we should dramatically lower the age of consent to 3. Just like that organisation wanted in the 70s, PI, Paedophile Information Exchange, who got government grants to fight their corner. They want to reduce the age to 3. So let's say this guy says the age of 3. He has the freedom of speech and expression to say that. He has the freedom to try to promote that. Even though we vehemently disagree with him, he has the right to do that. But the question is this. Is he the right person to be president of a children's charity? See where this gets complicated? Now, I'm not sure what should happen with the student union. Should they vote again? Do they want this person? I mean, this is entirely a a Oxford Union problem and a problem to solve. What happens now when they invite speakers all the time? What happens if speakers now turn around and say, I don't speak at the Oxford Union? Not while you've got someone like him as president. That is protest. That's a boycott. And we do that all the time. Is that cancel culture? I mean, I know about, when I spoke at Oxford Union, it was on the topic, should we cancel culture? And I'd just been cancelled myself and had to fight back. So I understand cancel culture, but I also understand freedom of speech isn't the freedom not to have consequences for those things you said. So freedom of speech for me just means you're not going to get arrested and locked up for what you said. A little bit like Graham Linehan. He never should have been arrested for what he said, those tweets. Never should have been arrested. That was an infringement on his freedom of speech. If the BBC decide, and which they've all done anyway, if they decide we're not going to use Graham Linehan anymore because we don't like his views, is that cancel culture? Is that them expressing what they think their audience want and don't want? It gets really murky now. When this is really difficult. So if there's a boycott of the student union, is that fair? Well, I think it is fair because that's other people using their freedom of speech and their freedom of expression to say, no, I don't agree with who your president is and I'm not going to engage with you. There's many shops I don't use. There's many items in shops I don't buy because I don't like the company and I don't like their stance on many things like eco-lunacy, trans, LGBT crap. So there's many, I'm already boycotting, so I'm doing it already. So is the answer to this problem that A, he's allowed to say what he wants within the law? And I think the answer is yes, he is allowed to say whatever he wants within the law. And people are going, Nick, but that crosses the line. That's offensive. That's extreme. You shouldn't be able to mock dead people and you shouldn't do this. Well, I sort of agree with you. But who draws the line? How do you define grossly offensive? How do you define it? because other people will define that to mean things you say. That's the issue with grossly offensive. That's the issue of all hate crime. Who defines what hate crime is? And once we try to define it, other people will have their versions of how they define it, and they're the people who will be in power, and they'll use that to persecute us. So we can't have freedom of speech and freedom of expression if we're using our freedoms to take away someone else's freedoms because we don't like what they said. I get it that it's uncomfortable. I get it it's not nice. This guy's an arse. This guy's a fucking cunt. That's what this guy is. But he has the right to say it. So that one's to bed now. That one's clear. Should he be president of a debating society? Now, I can't get to the bottom of that one. I really can't. I can't get to the bottom of it. Should he? Should a paedophile supporting person be the president of a children's society? Should they? Should you hire as the head of your board someone who's been convicted of starting fires and burning down warehouses and where people have died? Should they be able, if they're qualified, to be able to sit on the board of a fire charity? Just because you have freedom of speech and freedom of expression, we're supposed to live in a free country, and it's not a free country, but we're semi-free at the moment to a certain extent. Not everybody is suitable for every position. They're not. Does his point of view on the murder of Charlie Kirk disqualify him from being the right person to run a debating society? I actually think it might. Not because of freedom of speech, but because he's shown he doesn't believe in debate. He doesn't believe in debate. He believes in the assassination of his political opponents. That's what he believes in. He may not have said that, but that's what he celebrated. And you only celebrate things you like. So therefore he likes the assassination of his political opponents. So I don't think he should be president. Should he be kicked out of Oxford University? No. Because this had nothing to do with Oxford University. Oxford Union is not officially connected to Oxford University, even though I believe they're next to each other. So he still should keep his university place. Now, what's annoyed people even more about this case is how did he get to Oxford in the first place? He's a black guy with Rastafarian dreads in. How did he get to Oxford? Well, have you seen his A-level results? Have you seen what grades he got? I know what grades he got. He got a D, an E and an I. That's what he got, a DEI. That's what he is. Because his grades were A, B, B. You only get into Oxford, I believe, if you've got A stars. But he got in because he got an A, a B, B and he's black. That's how he got in. Affirmative action. DEI hire. How's he got to be president of the Oxford Union? Because he's black. It's as simple as that. Oh, we've got a black guy here and he's got dreads. Oh, that's making us look cool. He's got dreads. Dresses like a tramp. Oh, even better. A trampy, dready guy. Oh, fantastic. That's how he got the position in the first place. But that's a different discussion for a different day. He probably never should have been at Oxford because he's not that bright. And him taking that place stops a white person, a Chinese person or someone else getting that place because they got A stars and couldn't get in because they had to give some to stupid black men with dreads. So let's recap. Being free is not easy, Finding justice isn't easy. Being fair isn't easy because we've all got biases. We all want to be right. We all think we're smarter than we are. We all do. And as I said at the beginning, this is a complicated case. He has the right to say whatever he wants within the law. and basically for me inciting violence. And the criteria for inciting violence needs to be extremely high. Vicky Jones, the Labour councillor who said slit their throats, never should have been prosecuted. He didn't mean it. He didn't mean what he said. So we need incitement to violence to be a lot higher in this country. Should he be kicked out of university? No, he shouldn't. Not connected to his university place whatsoever. Just like if he had a job, shouldn't be kicked out of his job. But the one where I think he possibly should is he the right person to be president of a debating organisation, a debating club? Is he the right person? Not because he's black, not because he never should be at Oxford University in the first place, not because he's got dreads, not because he dresses like a tramp, not because he's not a great debater, only because he celebrates the political assassination of people he disagrees with. How can anyone debate him in the future? That's my point on this little segment. I don't think he's the right person to be president. He still should be part of the club, but I don't think he's fit enough. Just like a person who supports paedophilia shouldn't be president of a children's charity. I don't think someone who's quite happy with their political opponents being assassinated should be the president of a debating club. Complicated? You may agree, you may disagree, but that's freedom of speech, isn't it? Come and let me know in the comments. But please, and I mean this now, please don't shoot me in the head. See you next time.